Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Dekahedron RPG podcast.
Hi, everyone. This is Joe. No James this week, and we don't even have the episode we thought we would have this week. This week, we were supposed to do the episode that we recorded with Jason about what is an RPG, but like I mentioned in the Feedback Friday episode, that one is just kicking my butt. So we're going to talk about something different this week, and at the end, we are going to talk about this month's giveaway, this month being July, and we're going to talk about the updates for the BBS and the forums. But before then, let's talk about this week's topic, and this week's topic is, let's call it automated versus manual generation, or you might call it the pros and cons of automated generation, or manual generation, because that's why I went with automated versus manual generation. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm a computery type guy, right? I way back when, like on the cusp of teenagehood, I was like either like very late preteen or early teens, Radio Shack at the Midland Mall in Warwick, Rhode Island would have a Trash 80 on display outside the store. And I would sit there while my mother stand there while my mother was out shopping, and I would try to write a D&D character generator. So even before I owned my first computer, way back in the late 70s or early 80s, I was trying to do that. And of course, eventually I had a Commodore 64, and I wrote one. It was great, in my mind at least. But, you know, there's always been this marriage of computers and gaming in my mind, and using them as a tool when I GM. What I'm talking about here is things where that you do a whole lot of random stuff in table lookups. Let's say system generation in Traveler, or animal encounters in Traveler, or maybe random dungeon encounters in D&D. I mean, random dungeons in D&D, you know, following the solo dungeon creation guides from the Strategic Review article, or the appendix in the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, or my favorite adventure of all time, as I keep saying, is Frontier Forts of Kelnor by Judges Guild. And there's a lot of random tables on there. Actually, pretty much any product ever from Judges Guild is just a bunch of random tables. And it's real easy just to program that into a computer, especially these days using Python or C#. It's a matter of minutes to take a Judges Guild product and turn it into a quick little program. It's so easy to do that, and you get these really fast results. You know, once you program it, I can get well, actually, let's do a real example. As I've said before, I'm planning this little adventure for Heather and Keith and whoever else wants to join in. Well, up to 2 other people. So if you're interested, let me know. I didn't want to do it in the Springward Marches. I wanted it to be my own thing. And so I programmed a subsector generator with, you know, the planet generator built in. And I whipped out like 47, 48 planets, mapped them out. Okay, I can see where they are, you know, and it took me considerably less time to program that and do it than it would have to generate all 48 planets. But now I am generating the animal encounters for this specific planet where the adventure is going to happen. Spoiler alert. And that would also be really easy to program, and I could do the big table instead of the little table. I'm doing the little table. If you've ever played Traveler, you know what I talk about. Each planet can have, actually, you're supposed to do it for each biome in each planet, and you can have a short 1d6 table, or you can have a longer 2d6 table. I'm going for the 1d6 table. Like I said, it's a single adventure. I only expect it to take 3 or 4 sessions, so I didn't think I needed the bigger table. Anyway, it would be real easy to program it to make those 6 encounters. However, I'm doing it manually. And the reason is that, and again, this follows for the Judges Guild stuff too, because In Judges Guild, you roll on this table and then you roll on that table and you roll on that table. And all the previous tables, come to play. Likewise with the Traveler Animal Encounter generation, you roll for type and then you roll for size and then you roll for special abilities and then the weapon equivalent and all that stuff. Yeah, it'd be real easy just to program that and whip out a list of even 50 of them, never mind 6. I think Traveler already has a product like this, and all you get is this line that says herbivore, 15 kilograms, stinger, whatever. I'm making stuff up as I'm talking here. You look at it and it doesn't tell you a lot. Whereas I find if you sit down and you roll it up, the very second you roll up the type, and the type says that it's a gatherer, already you start, the wheels in your mind are thinking, okay, a gatherer, what does that mean? Sorry, a gatherer, a grazer, what does that mean? Okay, grazer means that they go around just like eating all the time, like a cow or something, like, okay, or a deer or whatever, okay, so maybe it looks right, and all these possibilities are already starting to form, and then you roll the next die and you determine its size, and you're like, oh wow, this is light. It's like the size of a chicken, and then that changes the gears. But your mind is thinking about this, and by the time you get to the last roll, you actually have a pretty good concept of what this creature is. At least I do. And that is so much more than if I just look at the stats at the end and then try to figure out what it is by there. The same thing with Frontier Forts of Kelnor. It would be easy to, in fact, I think I've done it before, to program all those tables there and just to whip out a fort. But then I'm looking at it and I don't have that same sense of connection as I do when I went all the way through it. And then I have to look at each thing and I have to try to start generating a story from that. And I find that the result is richer when I do it the long way, when I do it by hand. And just, to prove the point, like I said, I made it's 2 subsectors really that the adventure takes place over. That's the entirety of my Imperium, doing air quotes there. I've never cared for the GDW Imperium, 10,000 worlds or something like that. That's too big for my tastes. I like smaller worlds, smaller universes. The players can have more of an impact. Anyway, I programmed the computer and I had this list of 50-ish planets, 48, I think there are, and I have them mapped out and I know what they look like, but there's still a whole lot of work to go in there and make each planet a place rather than just a UPP. And of course, I don't really need to do that. I'm going to need to do it on the planet where the players start out at and where their adventure is going to be, and the ones in between, and maybe right around in case they need to make any quick getaways or something. But all that work isn't done because I don't have that mental image. I just have this stat block, and I have to go back and think about what that stat block means in terms of a story. So I think that's all I had to say about this. A nice short episode, the way the podcast was originally intended to be. I did write down some notes before I started, so I'm going to read them real quick, make sure I covered everything I wanted to. Actually, I'll even read them out loud. So it said, benefits of manual generation, so you can think about what each result means as it's rolled. Yeah, I talked about that. You can create a more coherent whole. I'm going to disagree with that wording a little bit. I think you can have an equally coherent whole either way. I think it's just more organic if it happens while you're rolling. And then for automated generation, I said it's faster. It can be easier to use, but it is faster. It can be easier. It's just that the results still require a lot of work afterwards. So is that really easier? I guess that's the question. And then I said making animals, generating fort and frontier forts of Kelnor. Give automated generations example for Traveler. I did all that. And all right. Yeah. So that is everything I had to say. So I am going to toss the question back at you, my fellow GMs and maybe fellow players. What do you think? Would you rather roll and like with the book in front of you and reference all the tables. I will say that the computer is easier because you don't have to flip to this page and then back to that page. Oh, what does that thing mean? So that's another reason the computer is easier. But again, I find I get better results doing it manually. Is that what you think? Am I wrong? Or you at least? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on this whole subject. Send us feedback. Feedback at dekahedron.com is the email address. Or you can go to sayhi.chat/dekahedron. Or you can call our number, which is 562 RPG cast. I had to think about that for a minute. Yeah, I looked it up the other day, by the way. Area code 562 is in like the Los Angeles area. Whatever. It also spells the word job. So the feedback line is actually job RPG cast, which was purely unintentional, the job part, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's how you can leave us feedback. All those methods are at dekahedron.com. Again, Dekahedron is with a K. Speaking of dekahedron.com, last Friday during our Feedback Friday episode, I talked about this idea I had to either open up like some web forums. I would do that at dekahedron.com because I already own the domain. Actually, I own another one called snogan.net, and there's nothing there. Would that make more sense? I don't know. I'm leaning toward actually it's already uploaded at dekahedron.com. It's not all set up yet. So yeah, I've already made that progress. I have a Raspberry Pi 400 that I've already started the install for WWIV. It stands for World War IV. It was the name of a bulletin board system, still is. So actually, I'm going to go with both approaches because they have different pluses and minuses, and we'll see which, if any, sticks. I just hoping that one doesn't cannibalize. That they don't both cannibalize off the other, and so they both wither and die. But we'll see. So that's the update on that front. On the other front, this is June as I'm recording, but we're entering into July, and as you just heard, I'm doing a lot of traveler stuff, so that has my mind in a very science fiction state. And so this month, I am doing a giveaway, and we're giving away one copy of my favorite hard science fiction novel of all time. And, if you win and you have to already have that novel, we'll talk, we'll work together. But I'm not going to say what it is until we announce the winner. But by hard science fiction, I mean that the core of the story is about man's relationship with technology or something along those lines in a realistic way. Not, Star Trek is more space opera / space fantasy. So for that matter is Star Wars. Star Wars is way on the space fantasy side with, the Force and all that stuff. No, I'm looking for something that, is pretty realistic. Like if it has some form of faster than light travel that, I don't know, they just don't mention what it is, or it's so nebulous that, that you can't say, well, that would never work. Because, I'm okay with that. It's hard to say what's hard. And as long as you can justify why it's hard for you, hard SF, I'm okay with it. I'm not an evil taskmaster. But yeah, and for you tell us how you would use that in a game. Like my favorite novel, I've worked into a Star Trek role-playing game scenario that I've run a few times. It works particularly well for Star Trek because reasons that I'll talk about during that episode. For Traveler, not so much. For Star Wars, I would hesitate to use it for Star Wars. Yeah, because I know immediately what would happen, and it would be horrible. It's hard to talk about that without talking about why. Hopefully, I'll remember to talk about that. James, if you're listening, hopefully your tech issues are fixed by then. Remind me to mention why that would be horrible in Star Wars. Anyway, we're at 15 minutes now, so thanks for listening. I'm going to wrap this up. Until next week, happy gaming, happy life. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dekahedron RPG cast. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a voice message by calling 562-774-2278. That's 562-RPG-CAST. Or by visiting sayhi.chat/Dekahedron. You can also email us at feedback@dekahedron.com. Links are in the show notes. For more information, visit dekahedron.com. Remember that Dekahedron is spelled with a K. Music is by Kevin MacLeod. Logos by Design Cat. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep those dice rolling.